It's time for another WrestlePlanet news update, as WWE's Charlotte Flair reacts to talk of a match with AEW's Britt Baker. Has an Impact Wrestling EVP just leaked the signing of a released WWE superstar? And Adam Cole is said to be 100% a free agent. All that and more coming up in today's video, but first... Tonight, AEW Dynamite airs live from the UWM Panther Arena in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and will be the first episode of Dynamite since the huge debut of CM Punk in AEW at Rampage: The First Dance. So far, 6 matches and 2 segments have been announced, including Jon Moxley, Eddie Kingston and Darby Allin teaming up to take on the Wingmen, which is the team of Cesar Bononi, Ryan Nemeth and JD Drake in 6-man tag action. The Factory, consisting of QT Marshall, Nick Comoroto and Aaron Solo, will take on the Gun Club, Austin Colton and Billy Gunn in the second 6-man tag match of the night. Paul White will be on commentary, and this follows the news that he will take on QT Marshall at the AEW All Out pay-per-view in his first ever AEW match. The Varsity Blondes will take on the Lucha Brothers in the semi-finals of the AEW Tag Team Eliminator tournament, with the winner advancing to the final where they face the Jurassic Express next week. The winner of that will then earn a shot against the Young Bucks for the AEW Tag Team titles at All Out. Britt Baker's new bodyguard Jamie Hayter will take on Red Velvet, who was attacked during Hayter's debut 2 weeks ago following the main event of the very first episode of AEW Rampage. Malakai Black works his second match in AEW where he faces Arn Anderson's son Brock. This follows Black's dominating win over Cody Rhodes at AEW Dynamite Homecoming. Orange Cassidy will take on Big Money Matt Hardy, who claims that Cassidy is making a mockery of pro wrestling. Chris Jericho will address his future in All Elite Wrestling after he failed to overcome the final chapter of the Labors of Jericho, losing to MJF last week on Dynamite. And finally, CM Punk makes his first ever Dynamite appearance ahead of his match against Darby Allin at AEW All Out on September 5th. With Darby in action earlier in the night, it's going to be interesting to see if the two come face to face, and perhaps we'll get a CM Punk Sting interaction. Tomorrow I'll be recapping the show, and then hopefully at night time we'll have the ratings as we track the impact of CM Punk's arrival in AEW, and if last week's Rampage ratings are anything to go by, we could be set for one of the most viewed Dynamites in history. Former WWE Champion Drew McIntyre took part in an interview with Pro Wrestling Bits this weekend for the SummerSlam pay-per-view on Saturday. McIntyre was asked for his thoughts on the recent debut of CM Punk in AEW, with the move gaining his approval. He said, "If anything, it's good for wrestling. That's what I'm all about. I was outside the company between 2014 and 2017, working in the independents and with Impact, and just trying to make wrestling a healthier, better place, and it's healthy right now. It's an incredible place. Obviously, WWE is still at the top and leading the charge, and anything that can make it better, I'm all about. So yeah, it makes a positive difference. It gets a thumbs up from me." It is worth noting that this interview took place on Friday before Punk's debut, but by this point everybody knew what was coming. McIntyre was originally released from WWE in 2014 and played a big part in the rise of the UK independent scene during that period, particularly in WCPW and ICW, as well as becoming a credible world champion in Impact Wrestling. Clearly Drew understands the importance of having a healthy industry outside of WWE. 12-time WWE Women's Champion Charlotte Flair recently appeared on Renee Paquette's Oral Sessions podcast, which took place in front of a live crowd at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, Nevada. The show was filmed during SummerSlam weekend in Sin City. Flair was asked about the rising competition from AEW, who answered that she feels like it's a good thing for WWE, and said, "Competition breeds competition. If there's no one out there to go up against, it's kind of like, what are we fighting for? No, you want to fight to be number one. So to me, the better they do, the better we do, the better we do, the better they do. No one should want anyone to fail. No one should talk down to each other. I mean, every company is different. To me, I'm going to say we are the best women's division, and there's only one queen in wrestling. So I challenge anybody else in the world, if you think you're better, try me." The live audience were then asked which non-WWE wrestler they would like to see Charlotte face in the future, with them replying DMD, of course a reference to AEW Women's World Champion Britt Baker. Flair then responded, "The people have spoken." The two are no doubt in the bracket for top female talent in the world right now, especially after Baker's recent ascent to the top of the AEW women's division. With talk of Charlotte's father, Ric Flair, linking up with her fiancé Andrade in AEW, perhaps she won't be too far behind. Wouldn't it be something if she managed to become a 16-time Women's World Champion by winning the AEW Women's World title? Also, it's interesting to see two WWE wrestlers happy for AEW's growth, with the view that it will push WWE to challenge themselves and improve. WWE President and Chief Revenue Officer Nick Khan has been the talk of wrestling recently after being blamed for the recent WWE releases as well as the upcoming changes to NXT. After the rapid rise of AEW over the past few months, Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer is reporting that Khan was warned about AEW eventually becoming competition to WWE on the day that he took the job in August 2020. Meltzer noted that Khan was warned by somebody within the company that whilst he's there he will hear that AEW will never be competition to WWE by those that work there, and this individual suggested that if WWE didn't make changes, AEW will continue to grow and eventually challenge WWE. Essentially, Khan was warned to take AEW seriously and ignore talk within the company that WWE would be impossible to catch. As we can see in the TV ratings, WWE are falling whilst AEW are growing, and it seems eventually the numbers will be similar unless something changes. Khan has recently stated that WWE has the blinkers on and are just focused on themselves, joking that everything is their competition, including sleep. It's unknown how Khan truly feels about AEW's chances of catching WWE, although it's likely that he echoes the same sentiments of most people within the company. Yesterday, Impact Wrestling EVP Scott D'Amore may have leaked a new signing for the company, that of a recently released WWE star. Wrestler and manager Jade Chung was streaming on Twitch whilst at a baseball game with D'Amore, George Iceman, and current X Division champion Josh Alexander. During the stream, Scott said, "Tune in this Thursday when Buddy Murphy premieres for Impact Wrestling." Iceman then teased that the announcement will come this week on the Before the Impact show, the lead-in to Impact on Thursdays on Access. Murphy is now going by the name of Buddy Matthews and has released 2 hype videos which depict him of being released from an asylum, symbolizing his release from WWE. On the most recent video, he seemed to sign a contract, and perhaps that was with Impact Wrestling. Buddy won't be a free agent until August 31st, which means he won't be able to appear in person until next week unless he's somehow had his non-compete clause shortened, although it's more likely that we'll just see an announcement this Thursday. And quickly, just before we continue, make sure you drop a like on the video as it helps me out a lot, and make sure you subscribe with notifications turned on so you don't miss any upcoming wrestling content as we head, hopefully, towards 100,000 subscribers. But now, let's press play on the video. And finally, we have more from the developing Adam Cole situation, who is now reportedly a free agent. Cole signed a short extension last month to see him through to NXT TakeOver 36 this past Sunday, where he lost to Kyle O'Reilly on his way out of the door. Whilst Fightful are reporting that his contract will expire on Friday, August 27th, according to PW Insider, he has now officially left the company. It is noted that Cole could always come back and sign a new deal later on, but the report states that he is 100% a free agent. There is still no word on his final decision, and he is likely considering his options. He has been offered a spot on WWE's main roster in order to convince him to stay, but there will be no doubt a space for him in AEW if he chooses to make the jump. Cole is a former cast member of Being the Elite, the web show in which AEW spawned from, and is of course where the Elite in All Elite Wrestling comes from. Cole was killed off from the show in a comedic skit when he signed with WWE in 2017, and the Elite have teased some kind of seance to bring him back from the dead. Depending on which report you believe, it's possible that he will show up this week on AEW Dynamite, although an appearance on Rampage is less likely due to it being a pre-taped edition. This week, Rampage is being filmed directly after Dynamite on the same night. Make sure you stay subscribed for any further updates in regards to one of the hottest free agents on the market, and make sure you stay tuned to the channel as there is a video discussing the 10 hottest free agents in wrestling today, day, and that will be up very soon. And before you go, make sure you check out my video where I discuss 10 dream matches for CM Punk in AEW.